Ladies and gentlemen, before we get into this episode, first I'd like to proudly announce that this video is sponsored by none other than Kind Connection, the best smoke shop in all of Mojave County. And I'm going to let the owner of it take it away.
Thank you, everybody. This podcast has been amazing and will be amazing, and you'll see it. But we're also doing a contest. That's the whole thing of this. So we're going to do a contest with Linda Biggs. Linda Biggs actually makes water pipes, sketches, coloring books, all that kind of stuff. And we're doing a big old giveaway. So you come into the Kind Connection, take a photo with our Linda Biggs cutout, and hashtag Linda Biggs, the Kind Connection. And the most likes on that photo on Instagram will win the big prize. You got a water pipe, you got coloring books, you got trays, you got all kinds of stuff that she has donated to us. So again, make sure you come on down. It's for a contest, ends September 30th, and we'll announce the winner on November 2nd. Be kind.
What means the most to me is respect and loyalty. Exactly. I will treat you the way I want to be treated, and I will treat you with respect.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I did. And some people don't know this. A lot of people do. I'm very open about my drug use back in my day.
Mm-hmm.
I started when I was 10 years old, and I quit when I was 19 years old.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, I was in California. I was in Yucaipa, Calamasa, and that methamphetamine was really big back then.
Yeah.
And I got hooked on it and everything else. Nobody knew. I was a hyperactive kid anyway, so I hid it very well. But what made me wake up was I moved from Southern California to Northern California. My real father moved in with him and all that stuff because my mom found out about my drug use.
Mm-hmm.
And she says, you need to quit. Your dad got clean and all that stuff. You need to go up there and he needs to help you. Well, what my mom didn't know was my dad's been trying to get me clean ever since I was 16 years old. Wow. He was taking me NA meetings when he lived in Southern California and all that stuff. My mom never knew about him. I hid it very well. I hid my drug use very well.
Yeah.
My dad was one of my best friends. And so my mom shipped me up there to stay with him and all that stuff. And I got clean for a year. And then I met a girl and I doubled back into it. Mm. But the thing was, I woke up one morning and I flushed about $450 worth of drugs down the toilet. And I said, I'm done. And I believe that's what the person's got to do is they've got to wake up on their own.
Yeah.
But to come from there and to come into owning your store and everything else, my dad and mom started it and everything else. I finished it. I retired her. And to come to this and everything else, it's a blessing. Mm-hmm. You got blessings every single day. And I see the drug use, and I see the drug use in this town, and I love to help people, and I try to help people. And that's where I brought in Kratom. So there was this mob that came in here. Her son was 16 years old, and this is how bad heroin was in this town about 2 years ago. Wow. The 16-year-old kid came in with the shakes because he didn't have any heroin. Oh. 16 years old, dude.
Wow.
And he was shooting up. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. So we know Kratom helps. Mm-hmm. So I gave him a couple of pills and all that stuff. His mom came back and said his shakes stopped, his pain stopped. He was able to get 5 hours sleep. Thank you so much.
That's awesome.
But those are things that, the FDA and our government is trying to ban. Stuff that wants to help and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But the thing is do your research because you'll find out that we've known about Kratom since 1840 in the United States. The government told the professor up in Michigan in 1901 that they found opioids, stopped doing the research on Kratom. So you're going to supply the United States with opioids and get everybody addicted. But Kratom, that's an all-natural thing that is never addictive.
Wow.
Yeah. And that helps people. Helps people get off of drugs, helps people get off of morphine, helps people get off of Vicodins, Percocets, and all that stuff.
Wow.
But it helps people with pain and everything else. And you're going to stop it. That's the stuff that we're fighting for. Us small businesses are fighting for.
Exactly.
Because we want to help people and make the world a better place. But it's one day at a time.
Exactly.
So, but when people come in here and I can usually tell that they've been on or off drugs, or they're still currently on drugs, and I try to help them. You know, I even if I say I'm just here if you need me, that's it.
Yeah.
That has helped one person. A lady calls me up. She says those words stuck in my head. She says I need help. I said let's go to a meeting. So I drove up to her and picked her up and took her to a meeting.
That's awesome.
So, but you know, if you want, we'll have to do another podcast about drugs because I have a whole spindle on that. I have a bunch of research.
Oh yeah.
And that's a whole hour topic by itself.
Yeah, I know.
About the beginning of it, where it came from, and all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I would love to get the shit off the street.
Yeah.
And again, drugs aren't racist either. So it's a choice. And the people have got to choose to not take them.
Yeah.
You know, unfortunately, they're everywhere and anywhere. And then that new shit that's coming across the border, man. Did you hear about the fentanyl?
Yeah. My God, the fentanyl.
A 14-year-old kid touched it. Never even done drugs or nothing like that. Picked it up off the playground. Died of a fentanyl overdose.
God, that's so horrible. And I remember a couple of years ago, there was a story when fentanyl was especially getting like really bad. There was this kid that was in a hotel room with like 2 or 3 other guys, and he had taken just a tiny bit, and he ended up overdosing on the bed. And the other guys started panicking, freaking out because they're like, "Oh no, we want to help him, but we also don't want to go to jail." But they still end up calling the cops. And then because they did the Good Samaritan thing to get the boy the help, I think the boy did manage to survive. He still has some damage that he's suffering from. I could be wrong on that, but he managed to survive. And those other kids didn't get in trouble because they decided to do the right thing.
The doctors on the 14-year-old kid that picked up off the playground said he died of a drug overdose. And the mother says, "How is that possible?" She says, "My kid's never done anything." She says, "My kid is a great kid, straight A student. He was on student council. He was on members of clubs and everything else. How can he do that?" So she went digging through his room. She didn't find a thing. But that's what's coming off through our border.
Yeah.
We got to stop that. So guess what Doug Ducey did? Which I'm very proud of him, but it took him long enough. Did you see the shipping containers on the border now?
I think so. Yeah, I remember seeing that.
Yeah, he finally finished closing off that gap with shipping containers.
Nice.
And barbed wire up top and everything else so that fentanyl wouldn't come across the Yuma border.
Good.
Finally. What did that take? That took us, 2 years?
Yeah.
Of the other administration being in office right now? Yeah, that should have been done a long time ago.
Exactly.
Again, we need to protect ourselves. Yes, I have a problem with people coming over to the United States legally, doing it the way it should be done.
Yeah.
And that's what I believe in. Yes, there is a process for everything. There's a law for everything. But that law is there for you to obey. And that law, one is, I do believe there's laws that are questionable, and you should question them.
Yeah.
But there's laws out there for a good reason.